welcome back to Moorhead Talks. This is our first edition here in the fall. We look forward to many more throughout the year, so tune in to us at Moorhead Access, and we'll give you some more information on Moorhead. But today, we're very pleased to welcome Mayor Jonathan Judd. And the last time we talked, you were a candidate. Now you're mayor, and you've been in the position for several months now. One of my first questions would be, how has it been so far for you?
It's been great, but it's been busy.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah.
It's just been a really steep learning curve,
Sure.
like with any job. But, it's been great to have a nice team and a community that's very supportive. And things have been going pretty well. But like I said, trying to learn and educate yourself about, how things work so
Right.
that you do it the right way.
Sure. Yeah, because government is a totally different beast than private enterprise, I'm sure, with just how things work. There's certain things that happen. So I'm sure it's a steep learning curve. And
Absolutely.
just getting through all that stuff. And then you're dealing with all these different departments and you're kind of managing all that. And then you have meetings twice a month that are on TV that, things come to happen there. But what's been one of the more surprising things about the job? Maybe something you hadn't thought of it that has occurred while you've been on it so far?
That the processes,
Okay.
it takes time to get things done, and there's a reason for that.
Sure.
A lot of it really comes down to you have a lot of people doing work on the front lines,
Right.
and then when you're trying to get things funded and appropriated, that takes time.
Right.
And honestly, you want to be engaged and have public input as much as you can.
Right.
So it's really, really time-consuming process.
Sure.
But in the end, if you get a good product, it's well worth it.
Sure. Well, Moorhead has, been going through a lot of changes and stuff. One of the big things, obviously, that you stepped into that is happening is the 21st and 20th Street interchange, and
Yep.
give us an update on how that's going and how things are looking.
Right now, pretty wet.
Yeah, we're all wet. Yeah.
That's the deal. The hope was to have that thing done by the end of the year,
Sure.
this fall, but the weather has not been cooperating. But things are progressing. My understanding is the 4th Avenue section hopefully is going to be done. Hopefully by the end of this year. We're crossing our fingers,
Right.
I hope. But it'll be next summer, even next fall, before the entire interchange is open.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised, considering that farmers can't even get in their fields right now.
I
with everything
know.
going on. So.
Yeah.
And then, what are some of the other things happening with Moorhead? Right now, we have a flood going on, which we weren't expecting at all. It's
Yeah.
a strange year, and so obviously, 3rd Street is closed and all that. What are some of the other things going on that you'd like to touch on? What we're looking at, and then, right now, the forecast looks good, but the way this area goes, we could be in winter in a week and a half. And
Yeah.
this is late October. We're recording this, so. Obviously, there's some plans in place for that. What are we looking at, just in case?
You're looking at for the flooding.
Yeah, for flooding and obviously a winter hit. If we get, hopefully the flooding is going to go down before winter.
Right. That's the hope. And, I haven't really had too many conversations yet with Dr. Bob Zimmerman about that.
Sure.
Because I know this has been kind of unique, the first time in a while that we've had water this high
Right.
in the city. So I think right now, generally speaking, remaining vigilant and making preparations for the spring. Apparently, obviously, if we get a freeze next week, then we're going to be on top of it.
Yeah.
And making sure that Dr. Bob has got a plan, to mitigate this coming the spring.
Right.
But I think everyone's kind of, just cautiously optimistic
Right.
that the water will hopefully recede a tad bit more. But, be prepared to sandbag in the spring at this point,
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you never know. With the and now I heard rumors that are we looking at another underpass project coming up?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, Tony. So I went out to Washington, D.C. last week,
Right.
and we're hoping to that those efforts to lobby for our bill grant application.
Okay.
So we put in a $25 million request
Yeah.
for federal aid to help us fund that. $52 million cost. So Governor Walz has talked about it when he came up here. Infrastructure is a really big deal for Moorhead. We're aging. We
Right.
have sewers that need to be fixed. We
Sure.
have piping. We have the underpass, obviously. The hope is if we can get some money from the feds,
Right.
then the state will hopefully kick in and help us out.
Right.
It's going to be a really big team effort,
Sure.
but getting some bucks from the feds is going to pay dividends. But the hope is we can get that done. I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, construction would probably begin in 2021, maybe even earlier,
That would be great.
depending on the land acquisition process
Right.
and getting the funding.
Because we're talking 11th Street, right?
Correct. Yep, 11th
Right.
Street. So the hope is we can get that done. It'll spur some more commercial
Sure.
development in downtown.
Right.
And, our stories are, we have 70 trains a day,
Right.
which
Right. The trains are the big deal with traffic here.
traffic, public safety, development
And
for
right now, 3rd Street is underwater.
Yeah.
So there's only really 34th Street, guys.
Well-
and then further out on 20th, that's
Yeah.
right. I mean, so that's a tough one right there, just to get from east, north, south kind of thing.
So it would be a big deal. So, we told the Moorhead story as best as we could to the federal people who make those decisions. And like I said, when they heard 70 trains a day and about a 5-hour wait times,
Right.
that perked their
Worked them up.
yeah,
That's
oh, yeah.
good. Well, we're in the hoping phase then at that point with everything.
Correct.
Well, great. So, what are some other things coming up with more? Because I know we're really starting to do some renovation work with downtown, and you can see it. You got 8th and Main that just opened up, and you've got several other projects going on. What are some of the other projects we're looking at that you could hint at for development and things? And obviously, it's a long-term process. People forget that downtown Fargo didn't transform overnight into what it is right now. I remember what it was like 15, 20 years ago, and it was concrete planters all over the place. And it took a couple of years just to get that stuff out of the way before they could do some other things.
Right. The one thing I will address briefly is the agreement with Roars.
Oh, sure.
I want to bring that up because
The City Hall. And
the City
you're talking
Hall.
about the potential sale of City Hall
Correct.
and renovating of the mall and that sort of thing.
Correct. And the public needs to know that that the council have been in discussions with selling City Hall for a long time. So it has
I heard
been
about
out
it
there.
years ago.
Right. It's been out there for
not
years.
New, yeah.
It is not new. And so, taking that up, we were approached. So Roar's development approached us about, possibly working out some sort of a contract in order to see what options we have. Now, obviously, city government needs to try to stay out of development.
Sure.
We tried to give the tools to enhance it and make it happen. But as far as that vision and what it looks like, others are experts in
Well, a
that.
good example, not to talk about our cousins across the city, but Fargo has done exactly that. The city is not building these projects.
Right.
They're getting a Renaissance Zone financing and turning people loose to do that on their own. And that's what's happened. And that's really the best approach.
Absolutely. And that's where we come in to help reinforce and make sure that those developments are successful.
Sure.
Now, the agreement to sell City Hall is a pre-development agreement.
Right.
So I want to kind of
There's
address
nothing set in stone.
nothing set in stone. We are still taking input. We will continue to use input. Merely, they are acting as our agents to negotiate with other property owners about development and what that looks like. They are the experts. We are not. And so that's what the agreement entails, as far as they're acting as our voice to go out and make those negotiations.
And from what I understand, it's a pretty good agreement. You guys have a great deal with them, and if it works out at the end, they're going to wind up getting the property to redevelop, but they're also going to develop and build a new city hall.
And I want people to know that that's not,
and that's just something that's going to happen.
and that's not the priority. The priority is not City Hall first.
Right.
The people spoke during the campaign, that the biggest question was, what's going on with the Center Mall? What's going on? What's going on? And the people spoke, we listened, and we took some action.
Yeah.
Is it a risk? Sure. Everything's a risk. But that's why you elect folks to take those risks. It is a calculated risk, but if it pans out, the input that people have invested time and effort and energy into will resonate into something bigger. And that's our hope.
Yeah. Well, and with a property like Center Mall, any mall for that matter, there's a huge shift going on right now where brick and mortar is disappearing. Look, Kmart is closing in South University, and that's the latest one. And West Acres has experienced its share of things, and they've reworked them just the way Center Mall is going through the same process. It's nothing new as far as that goes. It's a new era of stuff, and to some extent, people have to realize things are going to change, and we don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully for the better. You look at examples like downtown Fargo and other places, and Moorhead could be very much on that. And I just from people that have talked to me and stuff, there's no sense in saying, we should have done this, 30 years ago. That was 30 years ago, or we should have done something different. Today is today, and we're dealing with what we got.
And Tony, you are right on point with that, because the situation is this: we don't have, no one has a crystal ball of what the city is going to look like in 2040.
Right.
We can only go by what the current trends are now.
Sure.
And try to address those trends to keep our folks here. We want taxpayers in Moorhead. We want economic diversity in Moorhead. We want socioeconomic diversity in Moorhead. But now trying to take that vision to see what our city is going to look like when brick and mortar starts kind of going away, maybe it'll make a comeback. I mean, who knows?
You never know.
But, we're trying to balance what today and tomorrow is going to be, and that is a tough task. But we're doing the best we can. With
and this is a process. This is the first step of a process, and like you said, the voters have definitely spoken on that. So it's happening. It's working out. So that's something just to look forward to. Aside from Center Mall, though, there's a lot of other development actually currently happening that has been a long time coming. We have the warehouse going up, and that's turning into private apartments and loft type places. Really neat stuff. What are some of the other kind of developments that are happening or soon to happen as well?
The focus on the Simon warehouse has really been a really big deal. I think Dirk LaPointe has done a really good job with the 505. Okay. And so where that comes from is that, again, people want to be connected to their downtown. Right. So having more apartments that are downtown is going to be a really big deal. Yeah. The hope is now, again, this is where the whole crystal ball comes into play. Sure. We're hoping that a state and federal and local investment in the 11th Street underpass will completely transform that First Avenue North corridor, the Center Avenue corridor, and down to Main. So we're looking at that. Obviously, Comstock Commons is now opening up down 8th Street. Right. There are individuals that have a vision that 8th Street coming, north or south, will be another gateway to the city, especially with the Concordia and MSUM within, a half a mile or a mile apart. So, we've got a lot going on and a lot of developers who have big visions of what, they would like to see this going to fit our city. Okay. Because, again, we don't want to be like Fargo. Right. We have our own identity. Exactly. And so what that looks like is what residents and developers see. Right. So, yeah.
Well, there are a lot of small entrepreneurs as well that would love the opportunity. Maybe there's some gentrification going on across the river, and they would love to come over here. What kind of is there any kind of plans for them in that development deal? Is there who should they talk to? The Downtown Business Association?
Absolutely. Talk to our local EDA, right? Derek LaPointe with Downtown Moorhead Inc. Here's the deal. So, you bringing up really good points. You've been doing a lot of research on this, Tony. But no, honestly, what I've found in meeting with other Minnesota mayors is that the core and the future of Minnesota business is in our small and medium-sized businesses, our mom and pop stores. And if that's the way our economy is going, because it's growing in that nature, we need to make sure that we have a community that's going to foster those businesses to be sustainable and they can grow in number. Again, we want more entrepreneurs on this side of the river. Tons of funding, tons of grants, tons of resources that are available. So if they trickle from Fargo or elsewhere, we'll take them. As long as we're making policies as a council to make sure that they can thrive here. Right. That's what it's all about.
Well, I think one of the policies you guys already have done and fostered, and I've seen some promotion on it too, is pushing the arts a little bit, because Minnesota has support for the arts built into the state budget that North Dakota just doesn't have.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why Theater B moved over. And I think we could see other things. I've heard that a lot of people are dreaming of a performing arts center. Fargo keeps wanting to build one, and I don't know that that's going to happen downtown unless they renovate the Civic, which I don't think is the best solution, frankly. Yeah. But Moorhead could be primed for something like that. Of course, that's a big ticket item.
Well, the biggest thing that I will tell you is that when the bonding tour, so the state Senate made their bonding tour, and so did the state House. Governor Walz is coming here on Tuesday. Right. So Moorhead has really been a big interest down in St. Paul, and that's great. I bring it up because MSUM is looking at renovating Weld Hall. It's a good example. Yep. So I think they're asking, if I'm not mistaken, for $17 million to fund that. So in looking at that Performing Arts Center, we have to look at working as a team, first of all, and being fiscally responsible about people's tax dollars.
Exactly.
So if we can get St. Paul to buy into a $17 million upgrade of Weld Hall, that may, until our city grows and, 20, 30 years down the road, that may be our Performing Arts Center.
Sure.
And the biggest takeaway that I got was when we were on that tour at Weld Hall, an MSU and faculty member stated the best Performing Arts Center in Moorhead is currently at Horizon Middle School.
Yeah.
And whereas we should honor that for a city that prides itself on being the arts focus in our region, we have to do better than that.
Right.
So that's the hope.
And that's actually, that's one of the issues that in all of our cities around here, it seems like the schools have some setups. There really isn't something separated that an arts group could come in and stage a show at a high school or something like that. And that's just something that eventually will happen. And maybe it'll take some private investment in combined with that in order to do it. But down the road, we'll see what happens.
Well, we're going to keep working on it. I mentioned it at the State of the Cities last year that we have some big ticket items that we want. Right. And again, let's get the conversation started and let's hopefully get it funded and let's get things going.
Sure. Now with all that, a couple things that Moorhead has, but in Dangerfield, we don't have a movie theater per se. Mm-hmm. We have the Safari, which has been up for sale for quite a while, and it's an old place, and it shows second run. Right. There's some things like that. I don't know if there's a way to get some development over here just to bring some of those things over to this side of the river, or it's again, movies in general may not be the ticket anyway because that industry is changing as well. Mm-hmm. So it's looking at other options. Like we have a family fair that's wide open down on the south side of town that'd be great to fill with a couple of different things. Yeah. And obviously there's some development work going on there and the people that run that. What are some of the other items? The growth of the city tends to be is south and east for the most part right now. Yep. What are you looking at as far as the challenges that go with that? I know there's some challenges with just some of that area south of it. Unfortunately, Bellesley Boulevard comes up a lot of times, and but what are some of the things we're looking at to deal with those issues?
Very good question. I had a meeting with the FM Home Builders Association. I think what we really need to do is to get the residents and the local businesses to have a vision of what reinvesting and reinvigorating those neighborhoods look like. Right. And I think it's okay to come to us and give us those ideas, but we also need to work in a collaborative effort to get folks to be re-engaged in their community. Yeah. Because you're absolutely correct. I mean, families, I got 3 kids, and driving across town to go to a movie over at, over in Fargo, whether it's West Acres, that's a half an hour, and it's taking tax dollars, revenue money out of our, city. We have to change our way of thinking to say we have to be willing to invest and measure the outcome to make sure that we're capitalizing on it, if that makes sense. So I mean, in that south side, there are some infrastructure things that we need to work on, but again, we have to invest to get businesses to want to come over and invest in us. Yeah. So it's kind of drawing that line, to make sure. But that has came up before. And I think what we need to do is go in, listen to the people and the business owners to see what do you want to see come out of this neighborhood and reinvest in it. Plain and simple.
Well, there you go. Yeah, there's so much going on in Moorhead. We've got a lot of development going on, some that people don't always see, and they just have to kind of be aware of it. And there's people stay in their neighborhoods, they don't necessarily get around and see how it's growing. It's really growing quite a bit. If you go east, Moorhead and Dilworth are built together now at this point. There's really no line separation at that point. Speaking of which, the Aldi and stuff in Dilworth right on the other side of the street. I know Moorhead is also working. I just saw new fencing and stuff go up along that road for the housing that's over there, and I think there's new developments building north of that as well. What are some of the things that you're looking at? What kind of developments are happening? And obviously, homeowners. Moorhead, I've gotten this quite a bit from when we did a video for Moorhead Realty Association. Living in Moorhead and having your house here, you can get so much more house here for the dollar than you can in Fargo.
Yep.
There's a tax difference, of course, with Minnesota versus North Dakota taxes, but property taxes are quite a bit different. So the math works out very well up to a certain point, and then it kind of evens out. What would be your pitch to people watching about Moorhead, about things to consider? Because we're looking at, a couple of days from now, we're voting on a high school referendum.
Yes, we are. Yep.
All the things I've heard sound really good. Most people understand that we not only need this, we really do need that. And especially when we look at the explosive growth this city's seeing compared to other cities, further west, and they've got a couple of high schools they're building, we're expanding this one. So what's your take on that? Moorhead is growing and expanding. For people that are looking at possibly moving over, what are some of the good reasons why they should?
Well, for one, we have a really holistic approach to what community means and what community is. I mean, again, I live in Minnesota because I feel like I have a higher quality of life. And I mean, my wife's in-laws might be a little offended by that because they live in North Dakota. But honestly, I realize that I'm going to pay more to get a higher quality of life. And it really depends on what you look at as the bottom line.
Right.
I mean, in life, not just the fiscal bottom line. I mean, if I have state, local leaders that are being fiscally responsible with the tax dollars I'm paying in to get this higher quality of life, then it's well worth the investment. I mean, our school district, in my opinion, though I'm biased, is the top in our region. I think we invest time in our education system. I think our arts, our athletics, we're very diverse, and we do well. And we have quality people who are over here doing the hard work to get that taken care of. As far as the homeowner thing, I mean, again, you're right. Morehouse over here, we have just a community that's thriving because people are willing to invest in their income, their tax dollars, and to make sure that we have a higher quality of life. So, I mean, the bottom line is, yes, you're going to get a higher quality of life in Minnesota. The arts, for one thing, part of your tax dollars goes to fund the arts.
Right.
So we can have a theater be here. I mean, we have to look at a bigger holistic picture of it's more than just, well, I pay less tax dollars in North Dakota. Great.
Sure.
But what you get in return for what you pay over here, I think, is volumes.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the things coming up that you wanted to highlight in Moorhead? There's either events or just, we obviously have some events coming up. We have Downtown Lights Parade coming up in November, right before 2 days before Thanksgiving. Yeah. And that starts right here in downtown Moorhead. We broadcast it live. And Downtown Community Partnership asked us to do this officially, which we've been doing for years anyway. But so we're officially broadcasting live this year. What are some of the things you'd like to touch on, though, about?
Well, for sure, the coffee with the mayors.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing those still once a month.
All right.
And the dates obviously will change, but we're usually looking at the third or fourth weeks of every month. This month, we're going to be doing it November the 4th at Moorhead Senior High School because we're talking about the referendum and getting involved there. So that's coming up. And obviously the parade. Right. And also, I think what's also important is when we start talking about the bigger citywide events, let's
Hmm.
also talk about like Matilda that's going to be going on
Right.
at the high school.
That's right. That's right. They're doing Matilda. That's right.
I mean, these are community events,
Right.
even though they may be not the big ticket items
Sure.
that the city's doing. I
Right.
mean, this is still a part of our community.
Right.
So I mean, go out and show some support with the kids. Go out, have dinner downtown,
Yeah.
and go to a nice show. Make it a family event.
That's right.
I mean, we've got little things like that going on that I think probably need to get a little more promotion,
Sure.
because they are really important in our community.
Right.
Always, I would say too, I don't know. I want to say that we have more events to increase public engagement with our downtown process, but I may want to
Right.
defer to Derek on that.
Okay.
But I think we have a few of those things
Sure.
going on for the most part too.
What would be on your wish list to see with downtown and with the city? Obviously, we've talked about some big ticket items and
Mhm.
stuff. We're talking about. What are some wish list items that? Not saying that this is going to happen or anything, but
Yeah.
just things that we'd like to look at some point.
Community center that
Okay.
came back huge.
Okay.
My understanding is that again from the campaigning, people want
Right.
amenities here. The big thing is people want to have amenities to bring their families to,
Right.
stay healthy, well-being. So I think that's really the big thing.
Sure.
I think with that too, well, a new school would be great.
Yeah. Right.
I'm making my plugs whenever
Well,
I
hey,
can.
that's good. The school is very important. I mean, if anyone's been to Moorhead High School, and I would assume a lot have either gone there or been there, they understand with the up and down and all over the place that it is right now. And it's an older building. It really needs some upgrades, huge upgrades.
Right.
So I mean, the new design is pretty incredible. It's a great setup, and it looks like. So I mean, people should really look at that before they vote. If they need to be informed, because it's a really good upgrade. It's one of those things that Moorhead it's a need. It really is.
It definitely is. And so, I want people to know that to kind of answer your question
Sure.
about what do we want to see. Since I've been mayor, what I've tried to do is to reach out with things that make up, and I'll borrow the term I used at the state of the cities, what's in our DNA.
Right.
Education is. So when we look at development and we look at being fiscally responsible with people's tax dollars, there's no secret why that site where the old school is and the new school would
Right.
go is by the underpass.
Right.
And the underpass, look around the underpass. There are developers who are envisioning, okay, new school, new underpass,
Yeah.
new rink with, the Cullen Center.
That's right.
What can go here, right across the street
Mhm.
from the high school where the
Right.
Casey's is.
Right.
I mean, there's opportunity. We're challenging our residents and our city leaders and our business leaders to think holistically. If you see something new go up, what do you think would go there that can
Right.
enhance our community? So there's a lot of synergy going on.
Sure.
So realistically, what I want to see is something that's going to increase our commercial tax base
Right.
in Moorhead that'll help us all out as homeowners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And making sure that it's a sound investment. We're not just giving out TIFs for the sake of giving out TIFs.
Sure.
They have to make sense.
Right.
And I think that's what the people want.
And that's the old adage: build it and it'll come. You build something, and it will attract other things around it. That always does happen in that respect. So I mean, you're looking at not only that area, but you also have the corridor, where the Sanford is, and right off 34th there. That's a great potential build up, and the Menards area, and obviously the schools are going in to the old Sam's with a new setup that'll be part of that's part of the bonding,
Yep.
so hopefully that happens, because that's a great setup just to have much needed technical and training and tech training and things like that at that area as well.
We are Northwest Minnesota's economic mover.
Yeah.
I mean, we are.
Yeah.
And so, things that we can do here that are other communities can look at and say, okay, well, Moorhead's doing this. Let's also do what we can. Again, increasing our tax base and what we got going on. But we have a shovel-ready park at MCARA,
Yeah.
and people are taking notice. We have 2 new tenants down there.
Oh, well, we've got
Yeah.
coming up to one of the thing one person mentioned to me recently. It's always the things that get people the most is they never really talk when things are going well. You know what I mean? It's when they have a complaint that they show up, and it's streets
Yeah.
and things like basic services.
Mhm.
So things, Moorhead's actually very good on all these things. But what are some things you want to just tell people about that? So especially the winter coming up, some of the things to keep in mind.
Folks, here's the deal. I mean, we can't control the weather
All right.
and how, and how things roll. Steve Moore has got a lot of experience
Yeah.
in doing what he can to be fiscally responsible with our tax dollars
Right.
and how we get the streets and everything taken care of. We even have a pothole hotline where people can
right.
call in and let us know. I mean, here's the thing. Keep emailing us, keep, contacting us. I think I've done a pretty good job of getting back to people,
Sure.
in spite of having another full-time job,
Yeah.
but no, honestly, because we want you to think positive.
Right.
And part of what I've done as to challenge all of us,
Right.
including council and residents, is how can we change these challenges into opportunities
Right.
and be positive about it.
Sure.
So, with that being said, I mean, with our roads, I mean, we have an aging infrastructure that needs to have some love and some reinvestment.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So with weather, water, snow, and really extreme weather conditions, that's going to be a factor living here, but we're going to be on top of it as best as we can. But we still need your help to let us know what the problems are so we can fix it.
Exactly. That's a good thing to get out because people tend to forget this stuff until we were just hit with a little blast, a couple of weeks ago. That surprised everybody, but I think it was a good reminder that this stuff is coming. And last year we had pretty long winter, with some challenges. So we don't know what's happening. It could be a good winter. It could be a tough one. You never know.
Right.
But it's always on the top of everybody's mind, looking ahead to that. What are some of the long-term things that you're thinking about for Moorhead that, as you look into the future, because you always have to have a 10, 20-year plan.
Oh.
Obviously, it's downtown redevelopment is one of the big things. What are some of the other things that Moorhead in general and what you're kind of looking at?
Well, we're looking at ways to be resilient. Obviously, flood protection is going to be a big deal.
Sure.
And people are going to want to have, the city be on top of that. About what with the changing dynamics of what's going on, what does our city look like as far as flooding goes, and making sure that all this commercial and new residential are we going to be protected, and that's a big deal.
Right.
And that's a fair question for us, to address and try to find answers for. Also, just looking at what our city is going to be. I mean, again, the way things are going right now, what does this Northwest economic hub or giant that we're slowly, well, actually, I would say fast becoming, what does it look like?
Sure.
Are we going to be more of a technology base? Are we going to be more of the arts and entertainment base? Education? Our colleges going to continue to grow? What does that look like? So I mean, we have a lot to go and think about regarding 20 years down the road, and why this identity discussion is so powerful and needed. Because again, we want to be ourselves and who we are, but what does that look like, and what will it look like, 20 years down the road? So I mean, I think ongoing discussions, but I know one thing's for sure is that I think I would like to see more homegrown entrepreneurs. I want to see Fortune 500 companies here. I mean, and honestly, we are a business-friendly state. We can make that happen. I just talked to the Chamber of Commerce today about we have a lot of Fortune 500 companies in Minnesota, but I would like to see
Get one up here.
I would like to see a couple up here.
Yeah.
And I think if we keep growing our own with our students and giving them a school to be able to have that entrepreneurial spirit, creating policies to make sure that those businesses thrive here, we're going to have one.
Well, I'm thinking of that. Several years ago, obviously you weren't part of this, but there was a whole little brouhaha with some city regulations and things like that concerning some businesses, because we had a business here that left with the corks and canvas and stuff. If you remember that.
Right.
What are you looking at? Derek, when we were here talking about it, that was one of the issues he was talking about, is trying to kind of streamline some of that stuff in the process. How is that going with city government? And obviously, what process do you have to go through? Can you rewrite some things and pass it through the council? Do you things have to go to a vote? I think you probably just pass it through the council if you
You
made the
know,
changes.
yeah, for the most part, I mean, we trust city staff, and that's why
Yeah.
the input is so needed.
Sure.
Because even with our community block grant funds,
Right.
I mean, no one wants to fill out an application that thick.
Right.
You're gonna turn folks away
Right.
because a lot of folks don't have the time
Right.
or the resources to get through that. So again, streamlining those processes, and I think city staff with Derek and Chris Folkers have done a really good job of getting staff to check in with business owners and saying, look, okay, we want more of this here. How do we do that?
Right.
And a 2-page app will go a long way than a 30-page.
Exactly. Well, you're talking about homegrown entrepreneurs. That's what you need. You know,
Absolutely.
They're going to be intimidated out of it if they have to do much more than that. So I think just that alone could be a great campaign for Moorhead to welcome that, here to our city. So.
Well, in actuality, I'm glad you. Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
because I think you're right. We got to tell that story a lot,
Sure.
a lot better.
Well, we'll
Absolutely.
help you with that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, just I'm still,
Yeah.
almost 1 year
Yeah.
in the job. I'm still very blessed. To be the mayor. I'm very humbled to know that there's a lot that I know I need to grow on and still learn and educate myself on. But I'm really really happy that I've got a great team of folks, city staff that are educating me along the way. The business community has been awesome to work with as well, and listening to what their needs are and where we could do better as a city, but also the residents. I mean, again, I've got a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, about ideas and things that we need to work on too. And I want to let people know I'm listening. I'm getting that feedback to the right people, and we are going to follow up. I mean, again, it's a process, kind of as I stated earlier, but it's been a fun process to work with. So I'm really happy.
Well, Mayor Judd, it's been great talking with you. We'll look forward to the next couple of years and see what happens. And
Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it.
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more Moorhead Talks after this. Hello, I'm Tony Tilton. I'm General Manager of MCAM, Moorhead Community Access Media. MCAM is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we bring you the Moorhead Access channels throughout the city of Moorhead and in the whole metro on Cable One. MCAM is in major need of replacing some aging gear, so we're asking for your help. MCAM does what it can with a small budget, but now we need some help, and so we're having a capital campaign. MCAM is hoping to raise around $10,000 for equipment needed and several thousand more for streaming and for programming purchases. We appreciate your help, so please go to our website, moorheadaccess.org, and click on the donate button to directly donate via PayPal. MCAM looks forward to providing you with local and regional coverage of what you enjoy. Thank you for your donation to Moorhead Community Access Media. Welcome back to Moorhead Talks. Thank you for tuning into our long conversation with Moorhead Mayor Jonathan Judd. There's been a lot of questions about things going on in Moorhead recently, and we're glad to have brought some kind of clarification to that. Look forward to more episodes of Moorhead Talks as we go throughout the season on a monthly or so basis. If you have any interest you'd like to have us cover, contact us at moorheadaccess.org or tony@moorheadaccess.tv. Go to moorheadaccess.org and check out our online schedule. And remember, you can stream our Access channel 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can get on any device, whether it's your phone, a tablet, a computer, your web TV, anything that works. You can see us anywhere in the world, so there's no excuses. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.